The 8 mistakes you've got to avoid on your first day of pro wrestling training are coming up next. Until we make it. I'm Mike Quackenbush, and this is Till We Make It. Throughout my career, I've been very fortunate because I've worked in front of the cameras as a pro wrestler, referee, ring announcer, and commentator. And I have also worked behind the scenes in wrestling as a promoter, booker, agent, coach, consultant, and a bunch of other jobs too. And I bring the sum total of all my experiences right here to the Till We Make It YouTube channel. If you're down with that, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and join the Till We Make It tribe. Subscribe right now. And this is a fine time to do so, because with this video, I mark 400 public videos on this YouTube channel. Now there's another 150 that are only accessible to my patrons. Nevertheless, whether we're talking about 400 or 550, this is a number I never thought I would reach. And it's down to you. So thank you for showing up here week in and week out. Thanks for subscribing and liking, leaving comments down below, helping the channel to grow. It never would have reached this point without you. Thank you. And if keeping Till We Make It a weekly YouTube channel is important to you, then I need your help this year, because it is my goal to reach 100 patrons over on my Patreon. So if you want to make sure that Till We Make It remains a weekly YouTube channel, follow that link that's down below in the descriptus and join our community. I won't reach my goal without you. Up first, don't forget your footwear. You cannot train in a wrestling ring wearing street shoes. You're gonna need wrestling sneakers or maybe wrestling boots. But I get asked this a lot. Do I need to have wrestling boots for my first day of training? No, you do not. Here's why. Wrestling boots are an investment, and you want your investment to last. But if you are training in your boots rigorously multiple times a week, you're going to wear those boots down. They're never going to last until your debut match. So if you want to extend the life of your investment, my recommendation would be training your boots some of the time, but not all of the time. Some of the time will get you adjusted to the heft of the boot on your foot, but not all of the time, so that you reduce wear and tear on your investment. Have a pair of wrestling boots if you expect to perform in them, but swap them out on occasion for regular old wrestling sneakers. Number 2, don't forget to eat. And eat a real meal, not a protein bar, about 2 hours before your class is scheduled to begin. This is a long enough period for you to digest the meal, but you cannot turn up to wrestling class on an empty stomach. You're not going to have enough fuel in your tank to make it through the demands of day 1 of pro wrestling training, or any other day for that matter. You've got to eat a real meal. And yes, you can supplement with things like protein bars and protein shakes. That's all well and good. I do that as well. But you need to have real fuel in your tank, especially going in to those earliest training sessions. Give yourself every advantage. Eat 2 hours before class. Number 3, don't be late. You do not know what the culture around your training center might include. Here's an example. Your coach might expect you to be warmed up before the class begins. You might be expected to read and sign a waiver or other paperwork before class begins. And you're not going to know any of that until you show up. So show up early. Don't be late. Walking in at the exact minute that the class is scheduled to begin, having no idea what it is you are walking into, is a great way to make a terrible first impression. This next one gets overlooked a lot. Do not skip this. Don't underpack for training. And here's what I mean by that. You're going to pack a couple extra t-shirts you feel comfortable training in. Pro wrestling class is hard, and you're going to work up a sweat. And if you sweat completely through the shirt that you wore, nobody's going to want to practice with you. No one wants to get put in a headlock by the person who has a t-shirt that is drenched with sweat. So when the coach gives you a 5-minute break to run to the restroom or to grab something to drink, you're going to switch into a fresh t-shirt. And and pack deodorant in case you need to hit it again in order to stay fresh. And on the topic of underpacking, you might as well throw an extra towel in there too, because you can never have enough towels. The fifth mistake I want you to avoid: don't forget to hydrate. Take a water bottle or jug along with you, or something else that'll at least put electrolytes back into your system. But when given the opportunity during class to pause and rehydrate, do not chug that bottle down. You do not want to just fill up your entire stomach with liquid and then jump back in the ring to resume wrestling. That is a recipe for disaster. And don't assume that you will be training in the ring on day one, because at many wrestling schools, you don't. Every pro wrestling training center is different. The culture, the curriculum, the coaches, they are all different. And at plenty of schools, trainees do not get in the ring on day one. For example, the very first wrestling school where I taught classes regularly had a standing policy that no trainee gets in the ring for the first 6 months. Everything the newbies are taught is done down on the floor or on mats. Earning the right to train in the ring only came with time, dedication, and unerring attendance. This next one is my number one pet peeve in the entire universe. Do not side coach during class. Do you know what I mean by this? This is what happens when someone who is not the coach just decides to start offering their insight and advice from the sideline. So when someone who's number 5 in line for warm-ups just randomly decides to chime in with, "Oh, you know what I think your flip bump needs? Maybe more arms. Try putting more arms in it." That is side coaching. And you might imagine in the moment that you're just being helpful and supportive. And I'm telling you on behalf of all pro wrestling coaches in the known world and going forward into infinity, that is not how you are going to be perceived. Show respect to your coaches. And remember, your old pal Mike told you this: coaches coach, trainees train. And this last one on my list is key, so listen carefully. Don't put yourself at the front of the line for practice if you are unsure of the techniques being taught. Instead, try to put yourself at the end of the line. That way you have an opportunity to watch everybody in front of you before it's your turn to step between the ropes and show the coach what you can do. Putting yourself at the front of the line when you are not confident in the technique being practiced only ensures that the class will be slowed down, as you have to do the technique time and time and time again with feedback from the coach. Instead, try to put yourself toward the end of the line so you have an opportunity to familiarize yourself with whatever is being taught before it's your turn in the ring. Now that you know the 8 mistakes you've got to avoid on day 1 of pro wrestling training, click on the video that's appearing on screen to jump into my playlist that's all about year 1 of pro wrestling training. It's going to get you completely prepared for what lies ahead. Also on screen is a link to my Patreon. Come and be part of our community and help me reach my goal of 100 patrons this year.